So, a question I get a lot is, Kiro, why do you call yourself a storyteller? Why not just call yourself a writer? Well, the truth is, I do a lot more than write. I like to draw, I like to animate, and I like to tell stories. Start off with the obvious question, what is a story? Well, story can be a lot of things, and I don't think there's any arguing that, even when you're talking among other people. You can tell stories through music and song, movies and comics have been telling stories visually for years, and then there's just good old-fashioned writing it down with words. So, why not just write? Well, I think the answer's kind of obvious. Writing can only do so much. There's a lot of power in showing a story visually sometimes. And there's also a lot of power in the way that story can be presented and especially be interactive with readers and stuff. I obviously have no issue with writing. After all, I am a published author of a successful 3-book series, for a newbie author at least, and I'm pretty proud of it. But I also recognize that not all my stories fit that kind of format. Take my game project. Blade of the Archangels is a story I've had in my head since I was a teenager, and it was a story I could never really get out because I kept trying to do it as a novel or a comic or different kinds of written formats, but I always knew I wanted the story to be open and up to the reader to decide how it ended. And that's the kind of story that just works best as a game. I mean, think about it. Imagine if Mass Effect was a book where you couldn't make the choices about who was in Shepard's crew or the type of Shepard you were. It just wouldn't be the same experience, not to say it would be bad. There's a lot to be gained just from putting stories in different formats. And there's nothing wrong with changing up formats if the story you're writing doesn't fit a different one. I like to change formats all the time. I write comics. I work on animations. Sometimes I do animations for different parts of the same story just because that's specifically how I want to tell that part of the story. So what's the point? Well, the point is, I call myself a storyteller because I don't like limiting myself to the idea that I only have to write. There was a long time when I did feel that way, that all I could be was a writer. But the truth is, writing doesn't suit all types of stories. Not everything works as just a book, and there's nothing wrong with exploring other ways. I think if more people were more open-minded about what it meant to be a writer or a storyteller, then I wouldn't mind calling myself a writer. But when I say writer, people just expect that I write books, and that's just not the case. So for any other storytellers out there, don't be afraid to, experiment. I'm sure there's somebody out there who would love to hear or see your story as well. Don't let anyone else tell you what it means to be a writer or a storyteller.